Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Broadband Universe podcast. I'm Craig Corbett, and it is a distinct pleasure to welcome a good friend, Todd Schlekeway, President and CEO of NATE, N-A-T-E, the Communications Infrastructure Contractors Association. Todd, welcome back, my friend.
Thank you so much, Craig. It's always a pleasure catching up with you and the community at Broadband Universe.
You know, it's a busy time to say the least. That might be the biggest understatement of the day. So much going on in the world of communications, certainly with NATE Unite just a couple of short weeks away. And that's one of the reasons that glad we're able to catch up, is that this is a very special year for your organization, a 30-year celebration coming up in one of my old stomping grounds, Raleigh, North Carolina. Tell us what's coming up.
Yeah, it's kind of the calm before the storm here, Craig, and in a good sense. Yeah, you said it. NATE Unite 2025 will take place February 17th through the 20th in Raleigh, North Carolina. This will be the second time we've hosted our show in Raleigh, and it's really a great part of the country for our NATE community to gather. It's kind of an engineering hub for the industry. A lot of engineering talent comes out of that area. A lot of the tower owner companies, the vertical real estate companies, have headquarters or regional headquarters there. And then we just have a lot of contractors in that region. So we're certainly excited to be in Raleigh. And you said it, 30th year, it's our 30th year anniversary. And so we have some special things in store to commemorate kind of this milestone and landmark for NATE. And we're pretty proud of our history, and we're going to celebrate that next month.
That is so exciting. And I had the good fortune to be a part of last year's event, which, if memory serves, was in Memphis. But what I think was unique to me, it was very impressive that, you know, your event is the only one really nationwide that focuses on communications infrastructure contractors, you know, the products, services, technologies that are transforming every aspect of our both personal and professional lives. And so it's interesting to see. I think it's more than 24 education sessions on the agenda. Just spending some time looking through the agenda, that's an impressive array of opportunities for those that will be in attendance.
Yeah, and we have a trade show committee, Craig, under NATE's umbrella. We have great event staff. They work, as you can imagine, year round to produce a show of this caliber. And the content that we have in store for attendees is top notch. Very excited. Everything from safety-centric sessions to technical sessions to customer diversification workshops. That's been a priority of NATE over the last several years, to promote customer diversification. And then, you know, the networking opportunities are always a staple within NATE's events. And we'll once again have receptions, luncheons, a Women of NATE 5K event. We have a Tower Family Foundation golf event. So there really is something for everyone, Craig.
You know, you talk about the fact that this being the 30th year and one of the first sessions on the first full day is looking at how NATE has transformed the industry. Such a big emphasis on education, training, safety standards that, from my perspective, unrivaled in the industry. Talk a little bit about what will be in that session.
Yeah, and that'll be a popular one for attendees, because some of literally some of the co-founders of the association back in 1995 are speaking on that particular session. And as you can imagine, they'll have some anecdotes and stories to share on, you know, what prompted a group of independent-minded contractors to come together in 1995 in Dallas and not only agree to that there was a need for a trade association, but craft bylaws and really get NATE off the ground. So we started with 66 contractor companies, and then if you fast forward to today, you know, over 1,000 member companies. And the safety standards, the training initiatives, the advocacy efforts we've accomplished in DC. I mean, we have a lot to be proud of, because back then, Craig, you got to understand, I mean, it was very much a cowboy culture out there. You know, you had the lineman's belts being used on cell towers and communication towers. And so we've come a long way in terms of the safety, quality, and professionalism in the industry. And so that's to be celebrated. And I imagine you'll hear some great stories on that session.
Education and continuing
Yes.
education, obviously a big part of what's going on. The certifications that are front and center with that component of what Nate does.
Yeah. The industry now has its own portable ANSI accredited credential for tower technicians and foremen. It's the National Wireless Safety Alliance. They continue to make great strides. And Nate was one of the founders of that credentialing arm. And so that's another achievement that I think the industry collectively can point to as we celebrate 30 years of Nate.
No doubt. You're watching the Broadband Universe podcast brought to you by Utopia Fiber, built by communities for communities with blazingly fast speeds you can rely on. My guest today, Todd Schlekeway, President, CEO of NATE, the Communications Infrastructure Contractors Association. When we look at the opportunity to get together people in the industry that, today, and we were just talking about it before starting this conversation, how the ability to hop online and touch base with people is just a part of your daily routine. But it's still nice to be able to shake hands and visit with your friends and colleagues in person.
Absolutely. And a lot of our members, Craig, this is the only conference they attend annually. Because I mean, you're
Right.
talking about small business owners. Some of our member companies, they're in the field all the time. So they're not traveling the country going to every conference. So we really try to roll out the red carpet for our attendees because we know that such a large percentage of our membership, this is their one event they attend. And what's unique about Nate, I say this all the time, Craig, you'll see employers and business owners in sport coats, but you'll see field techs and field personnel in blue jeans and a shirt. And they will walk that exhibit hall and they will tell the vendors the good, bad, and ugly of their product. And so it's like a real time focus group. And so there's a lot of energy and buzz associated with our conference, especially the trade show floor. And so we pride ourselves. We keep people in that trade show exhibit area the whole time, and there's a lot of energy. And so it's always kind of fun to see the unique demographic of attendees that we attract.
Absolutely. You talked about the fact that there is a tremendous educational component here, phenomenal speakers, and without question, a great array of exhibitors. And that's something that I think has grown through the years, and this year, no exception.
Yeah, we continue to attract new companies who exhibit, and they really like it because our show, Craig, again, it's hosted in the first quarter of the year. So oftentimes these vendors and manufacturing companies who exhibit use it as kind of a product launch. They leverage our show to announce new product lines, and so again, we like our timing on the event calendar, and so we'll definitely keep it this time of year.
Absolutely. One of the other sessions I wanted to touch on day two of note, View from the Top,
Yep.
examining the communications infrastructure and services market outlook, not only for 2025, but beyond. Talk about that.
Yeah, and this will be very similar to the session you moderated at our show last year, Craig, in the fact that we're really going to do a deep dive on the trends, what to expect in 2025, 2026. There will be immense interest in that session because you have a lot of the vertical real estate company CEOs speaking. And of course, their companies are customers to the contractors that make up the majority of Nate. So really, I anticipate there being number one for that session, but a lot of conversation around what does the wireless CapEx environment look like in 2025 and 2026? What's going to happen with the BEAD program? Where's inflation going to go? And now that we have a new administration, and so what does the regulatory environment look like for our industry? So I think they're going to really do a deep dive. I was on a planning call with that group yesterday, Craig, and it's going to be a great session. And it's that I anticipate will probably be maybe the most well attended educational session we host.
No doubt. Well, that's the perfect segue. Just what you covered there. Perfect segue into the topic of challenges facing the wireless industry and the wireless industry marketplace today. Many forces, both domestic, international, globally, that are in that conversation. What are some that come to the top of that topic for you?
Yeah, thank you, Craig. Well, what I can tell your audience is, I've been in this job with Nate for 13 years now, and I would say the last 20 to 24 months has probably been the most challenging environment that the contractors have faced, especially if your customers are the wireless carriers. And there's a myriad of reasons that have gone into that, but some of the capex investments on the network side have really slowed or paused in some cases. There's a lot of challenges with some of the matrix and unit pricing that the carriers impose upon the contractors. Some other challenges associated with payment terms. So when you have if you look at the wireless side of the house, there's a relatively small number of major customers. And so when you're relying on those customers and you're a contractor services firm, it makes for a tough environment when things scale back. Now, the silver lining, Craig, is we have really tried to push a message of customer diversification. And some of our
Right.
members have done that better than others. Some are more equipped to do it more than others. But, I've had many conversations the last several months alone of companies who are now doing work in data centers, finding their niche with data centers, finding their niche. If it's not trenching and boring on the fiber side, they might find a niche on the fiber side. Some members have had success on the public safety market, the federal government, work, in building DAS installs. So they're trying to reinvent themselves to insulate themselves for the next time the industry kind of bottoms out. And, we can't sugarcoat it. This will be an A topic at Nate Unite, Craig, the wireless slowdown, the impact it's had on the vendor and contractor community. What can Nate do to help support and prop those companies up? That will be a major topic of conversation at Nate Unite.
Very timely indeed. Another timely topic, obviously, from a legislative perspective and a regulatory perspective. Change in administration, change without question in our nation's capital. Looking at how that can potentially affect your membership in NATE. Thoughts there?
Yeah, one thing I've been very proud of, Craig, when you talk about the legislative and regulatory environment, is Nate's really made a lot of advancements in, whether it's our relationship with Capitol Hill, with the agencies that we interface with daily that has jurisdiction over many of the issues confronting our members. I think there's a lot of optimism that on both the wireless and fiber side, the permitting processes will be streamlined in this new administration. I think there's optimism surrounding a better environment to potentially drive down interest rates. I think there's optimism, Craig, that the Spectrum Auction Authority Congress will finally move on that and give the FCC the ammunition it needs to conduct future auctions. And let's make no mistake, one thing I always say, Craig, is all the billions spent on Spectrum airwaves, none of that matters unless Nate members flip that switch and enable that connectivity. Airwaves are just airwaves until they allow you and I to connect, right? So I think there's a lot of optimism on the Spectrum side, the permitting side, regulatory side. I think there's still some questions, and I know you're going to want to go down this road with me next on the BEAD program.
Yeah.
But there should be some funding coming there. And then, the FCC even has a $9 billion 5G mobility fund that I think would be great for Nate members. I anticipate that's going to come out and be available at some point here the next year or so. So to sum all that up, I believe Nate's really well positioned. Chairman Carr is a great friend of our association and our members. I used to work for Senator John Thune, and he's now Senate Majority Leader.
Yep.
We have a partnership with OSHA and the FCC, so really excited about what can be accomplished for the industry in the next 4 years.
It is hard to comprehend that it's been 2 years since the FCC has had the ability to auction spectrum. And
Yeah,
to your point, I agree. I can see that being top of the list importance because with the $3 billion rip and replace program, they're going to have to auction spectrum to pay that off.
yeah,
So it'll be interesting to see how quickly that comes to fruition. Also, a great segue into another event that's on the NATE calendar in just a couple of months, late spring, your congressional fly-in. Talk about
yeah.
that.
Yeah, thank you, Craig. We are really excited. We're going to have our NATE member congressional fly-in May 6th and 7th in Washington, D.C. This will be the third fly-in that we've hosted. We usually do it in off-election years. So this will be a great opportunity for our members to get in front of their U.S. senators and their representatives. It's really a good time. We have members of Congress come speak to our members. We have several receptions and networking events, and then we try to have a closing reception in the U.S. Capitol, and really
Nice.
a hit for our members. We tell them to just be themselves. We arm them with messaging and talking points, and everyone who's participated the previous two fly-ins has really enjoyed the experience, and so we have big plans to host a first-class event again this May.
That is exciting. Something you touched on a moment ago, I wanted to get back to before we got too far down the road. That relationship between NATE, OSHA, and the Federal Communications Commission. You got a national strategic partnership that looks at safety audit data, and you've got to have good data in order for that to work. Talk about how that all comes together.
Yeah, thank you, Craig. We are really excited about where that's going. So in 2020, we signed the NATE OSHA FCC National Strategic Partnership. We renewed it in 2023 for 5 more years. And so, yeah, we have representatives from NATE, OSHA, the FCC, the carriers, the tower owners, the GCs, all on different committees. And what we are doing is creating safety resources and educational resources centered around the data we're collecting. And the end goal is to move from kind of a lagging indicators to a leading indicators, to improve safety in the industry. And so we're getting good contributions in terms of data submission and collection from companies up and down the infrastructure. The tower owners, the
Mm-hmm.
carriers, the GCs. And then what we do, Craig, is we sanitize the data. And then we make it available cumulatively. So no one has to know where it came from, but it really gives us a good benchmark on what are the deficiencies going on at tower sites around the country. What can we do as a partnership using the platforms that the FCC has and that OSHA has to get those resources and training initiatives out there to enhance safety. And so it's really something we're proud of because there's collaboration between both the public sector and private sector.
So important and something that makes such a huge difference each and every day for a lot of folks in this industry. We appreciate what NATE has done in that strategic partnership and wanted to circle back as we begin to wind down. It has been great to catch up and get a little bit of a preview of that 30-year celebration for NATE coming up in just a few short weeks, February the 17th through the 20th. Again, at the Raleigh Convention Center, Raleigh, North Carolina. So happy for how the organization has grown through the years, the importance that it has within the industry, and wanted to thank you for your leadership with NATE.
Thank you, Craig. We have a great board of directors, staff, volunteer committees, so it's kind of all hands on deck here. And we have a lot to be proud of, but we have a lot to look forward to, from an opportunity standpoint moving forward. So I always appreciate you and what you do for the industry as well.
Well, it is great to be able to keep abreast of what is happening with Nate, and do appreciate your time here today. And on behalf of Todd, I'm Craig. Thanks for letting us be a part of your day. We'll see you next time right here on the Broadband Universe. So long, everyone.